Hello, beautiful community. I love you so much. I'm really excited for everything that we have done together and the new direction that we're going. And I say that because this is part 3 of the POCF Origin series. This is the last final series of the branded Partners of Commercial Fishermen podcast until the new podcast is born on January 7th. I'm your host, Megan Waldrep. And if you're new here, welcome. You're coming on at a great time. You can learn. Really, this feels like the Cliff's Notes. If you're a millennial, you know what that is. The Cliff's Notes of everything that we have discussed over the last 6 years for the Partners of Commercial Fishermen community and how it applies to anybody's life. Honestly, if you're in a relationship, these conversations really hit. But this is just such a nuanced way to connect with those behind the catch, those behind wild caught seafood. And today we're learning about the 9 things to know when dating a commercial fisherman. So each week I am explaining one process of that, one of those numbers, and going more deep into the story behind the scenes, giving you more of the inspiration, the lived experiences from myself and from those in the community that I've learned since 2019. And today we're going to talk about the language of commercial fishing, even when you'd rather talk about literally anything else. And I feel that this specific part of the 9 things to know when dating a commercial fisherman, this is the actual part I felt that really started this entire community, the inspiration to write 9 things to know when dating a commercial fisherman. It's whenever they're talking about the damn boat and fishing all the time. So this is number 3. When you date a commercial fisherman, you'll learn about boat parts, engines, and stuff you couldn't care less about. You'll go to dinners with his friends and struggle to stay awake when the conversation only revolves around fishing and other fishermen they know. You'll show support with a polite smile and a nod, all the while secretly dying of boredom. You'll fight the urge to grab your phone to scroll through Instagram and wish the subject would turn to art, pop culture, books, or something, anything you can relate to. Holy 9 things to know when dating a commercial fisherman and holy Partners of Commercial Fishermen. That instance, I remember that so much. I remember the first dinner that I was sitting around a table, and it was with Chris, his sister, and his brother-in-law. His sister fished with Chris, my husband, and her brother-in-law. They all had fished together on the same boat, and then brother-in-law had his own boat, and Chris and his sister had their own boat, and they were talking about Bristol Bay, Alaska. I was up in Washington State where he was living at the time, and I believe that's when I moved up there thinking, which is a whole side story, but I had moved to Washington unintentionally. I thought I was jumping on a sailboat to go sail to Mexico, but we missed the weather window in Washington to sail down the Pacific because the Pacific gets gnarly after about September, October, and we had to wait until April to actually sail down the Pacific. And well, yes, you can sail down that way, but in a way that would make me want to stay on the boat and not fly home and never step on a boat again. So I was unintentionally living in Washington at the time on a sailboat, feeling completely alone. I had quit my job as an editor at the paper, at a local newspaper in Santa Barbara, California. And I decided I wanted to risk it all for love. The paper was a dream job that turned into not a dream job after a while. I thought, oh my gosh, I'm an editor. I made it as a writer. I can pay my bills. I can pay my rent as a writer. Holy shit. In California, a dream I never thought was possible. And then when I became editor, I realized that it became less about writing and more about keeping the ship afloat because that paper was sinking. That paper was going under, and they basically handed me the keys to the ship and said, good luck. If you keep it afloat, that's awesome. If not, then you'll learn something in the process. And I thought, hell yeah, give me that challenge. I'll take it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to recreate this whole vision for the paper, blah, blah. And mainly for me, I felt I had a responsibility because I loved writing. And I also wanted to make sure that my fellow writers still had a job. I still wanted to make sure that they could write for a paper that we all loved so much. So long story long, the the opportunity came up that Chris was like, let's just jump on the boat. And it was right at the time when I was having a breakdown about my career. I was sobbing in the car because I had gone to the Santa Barbara Writers Conference. And it was the first time I'd been around writers who wrote for the love of writing, not because they had a deadline and not because they were doing it for money, but because they truly loved it. And I'd never been around a community like that before. When you meet your people that speak to you in a certain iteration of yourself, because we are so multifaceted as people and especially as women. But man, that really spoke to my heart. And I got back on in the car and I turned my phone off of do not disturb or whatever the whatever it was at the time. I don't think we had that feature back then, but this was back in 2015, I believe. Yeah, 2015. I turned my phone back on and I just got email, alert about ads, all of this all this stuff to invoice, like things that were not sexy that had to happen for the paper to stay afloat. And I just was bawling, crying. I was like, this dream job is not what I thought it was going to be. I am not living the highest version of myself creatively, and this sucks. Like, what am I going to do? I don't know who I am. These writers that I just left, they're writing for their love of writing. This is amazing. Chris called me in the middle of that breakdown and he said, he listened to me and he said, well, how about, he was living on a sailboat in Bellingham, Washington at the time. He said, well, why don't we just get on the boat and get the fuck out of here? I've always wanted to sail and I that would be such a great adventure for us. And I thought, you're asking me to move in with you. First of all, you're asking me to move in with you. Do you understand the gravity of this ask, of this situation? I'd never lived with a man before in my life. I was 33. I think I was 33 or 34. Never lived with a man. Was I going to live with a man? Number one. Number two, the sailboat, people were like, oh, it was a sailboat. I can't imagine. But the sailboat was actually the fun part too. I was like, ooh, a boat. That sounds fun. As a military kid, I've never really had a vision of living in a white picket fence, like a house and, this typical type of lifestyle. I'm always game. I'm like, is that a tree house you can live in? Sweet. Let's go. Like adventure. Let's do this. So the sailboat seemed fun. And I thought, okay, this is intriguing, but I need to check in with myself and see if this is something I'm actually going to do. Am I really going to quit my job, move from California, which is where I wanted to live since I was 15, I'd been wanting to move to California. I'd been there for 3 years at the time, had achieved what I needed to in my heart, soul, creatively, spiritually. It fed me so much. I love California forever. Excuse me. It will be a part of my heart. Excuse me. Geez. Forever. I mean, it fed me so much. So I went to Big Sur for 5 days. I actually wrote the publisher. I said, I need time to myself for 5 days. So I left on like a Wednesday. I had turned in all the deadlines I needed to. And I went to Big Sur to go meditate on a mountain. It's basically to car camp and figure out, was this something I was going to do? I'm going to go hike the mountains of Big Sur. I'm going to go walk the beaches. I'm going to just stare off into the distance, into the most beautiful void there is on this planet that I've ever experienced. If you've been to Big Sur, you understand. I mean, it's just incredibly spiritual, beautiful, humbling. It's if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, it's like that kind of awe that you just can't even take in with your eyes. It just seems so grand. So I went there, and I guess I'm going to make this long story long. So basically, I had a pen pal friend who lived in Big Sur at the time, a gentleman, and he worked at the Henry Miller Library. And when I was single, I had driven up the coast and I was trying to figure out where I was actually going to live in California. And I saw him at the Henry Miller Library and I was like, he is cute. I'm going to shoot my shot. So I had him take a picture of me. I was like, can you I took a picture of him. Like, can you pose just as that's part of my travel journal or whatever? Oh my gosh. So I get in the car, I'm driving up. I go up to Sacramento. That's where I went. And I emailed him and I wrote in the subject line, it was attention cute boy at the Henry Miller Library I put the date. I put the picture that I took him. I was like, thanks so much for being a part of my photo journey, blah, blah, blah. And then he wrote me back. And then we ended up having this incredible friendship, penman, like actual writing letters back and forth to each other for years. I don't even know how long it lasted. It trickled off after Chris and I dated, of course, but Chris met him later in life when we went to Big Sur. I mean, it was like we had a lovely connection. He was also a writer, so it was really fun to read and write these emails to each other because we were just, hitting each other where where it feels good as just creative writers and also sharing life. And I was learning about his life in Big Sur. So I go to Big Sur. When Chris said, how about this? Move on the boat. If the price is good in Alaska, when I go up to Bristol Bay, Alaska, and the salmon price is good, let's get the F out of here. And I was like, okay, well, just to let you know, I have very minimal savings and, laying it all out there on the table. I'm not here. I don't have like a 10 grand that I can take with me. He's like, no, if the price is good, let's go. I was like, well, I'll think about it. He goes to Alaska to go fish in Bristol Bay for the summer. I go to Big Sur. I text my friend. I said, hey, just letting you know, I'm heading up there. Or I guess I emailed him. I emailed him and said, I'm coming up. If there's anything cool going on, let me know. He's like, actually, Tuesday nights. Oh no, I guess I was there on a Tuesday night. Tuesday nights are locals night at Esalen. So if you want to be my guest, you could totally come. And I was like, whoa, Esalen is this incredibly private and amazing spa hot spring resort area that is very pricey. And you really can only go to it if you go to a workshop and stay there. But for locals, they open it up for $10 that you can go for 2 hours every Tuesday. And I was telling my friend at the time, I said, so he just invited me to Esalen. And she goes, you need to go. She's like, if someone invites you to Esalen, you need to go. And this is the other thing I didn't mention. Esalen is clothing optional, but it's also, if you wear a swimsuit, it's also stands out. Like it's very odd if you actually do wear a swimsuit. So it's a nude hot spring resort. And a very, to sum it up, I mean, it has so much more beautiful qualities than that. You can look it up. But she said, if someone asks you to go to Esalen, you go. And I was like, well, I want to respect my relationship because I need to be honest with Chris about this. I'm not going to go up there and, be naked with somebody and other people without sharing it with my boyfriend. And so she's encouraging me to go. So I tell Chris, I was like, so I'm going to go to Big Sur. Yeah, before he left for Alaska. I'm going to go to Big Sur, and my friend invited me to go to Esalen. He was like, oh, cool. Have you been? No, you got to go. I was like, oh, wait, you're encouraging me to go? You know this, you've been to Esalen, you know what it's about? He's like, oh yeah, you've got to go enjoy it. It's incredible. It's these hot springs overlooking the Pacific, the waves crashing against the shore, against the cliffs. It's amazing. I thought, wow, you're so evolved and you're so from California. And I would so not be cool with this if it was the other way around. Just so you know, I'm not as evolved as you in this moment. So I took off. I went to Big Sur. I had a day for myself. I stayed, I car camped. And then the next day I met my friend and we went to Esalen and yep, straight up nude, no clothes. You hang your clothes up in a closet and then you just soak in these incredible baths. And it was amazing. And it was so interesting because before we had left to go to Esalen, we met at a restaurant, Nepenthe in Big Sur. If you know Big Sur, you're going to love all these little these little nugs. So yeah, went to Nepenthe. We met for like a quick meal or something. And I told him right off the bat, I said, I'm thinking about sailing to Mexico with this man I met. And he's like, wow, that's really amazing. And he was very respectful. It was very cool. And so, I mean, I laid it out. There was no pretense that anything was going to go on. So we go to the pools. And then for the next 3 days, he said, well, I'm actually house sitting for a friend who owns, and I can't remember the name right now, one of the inns in Big Sur, and they were out of town. He said, so if you're done with car camping, I have an extra king bed room if you want to stay in it. I was like, what? He's like, I'm going to be busy working and stuff. You can use this as your home base. And I thought, sweet. So now I have a king bed and a shower. This rules. So every day I would just find a new adventure, go around in Big Sur hiking, go to the lighthouse tour, and just generally figured out if this is what I was going to do. And then one day towards the end of my trip, I went to the Henry Miller Library because that was the only place that had a cell phone signal or Wi-Fi that I could call that I knew of. And I was pacing the wooden deck of the Henry Miller Library, and I called my publisher and I said, I'm giving my 2 weeks notice. I'm going to take a risk for love and I'm going to do this. And what really said it for me, what really made me feel that this was the decision was I felt that I had gone to California and I had done what I needed to do in that moment. It had given me the jumping board, what do you call it? The springboard, if you will, to my next step. And I wanted to know what it was like to write for myself, for my creativity. And I've never really risked it for love before. I've never met somebody that I thought this is a potential, future with this person. This is someone that I could build a future with. And it felt like he was the one. And Chris told me, he called me afterwards when he got back from Bristol Bay. He was like, the price is this. I don't know what it was. It was like $1 something a pound. I can't remember what it was. And I was like, is that good? I don't know. I don't know what these prices mean because they sound insane. I'm like $1, but honestly, $1 something is a pretty good per pound for salmon. I said, what does that mean? He's like, that means we're going to Mexico. I was like, okay. Okay. So I tied it up with my job. I sold all my things. I packed up my car and I drove to Washington and drove to Washington and was thinking, okay, we have a month till we're launching this sailboat to go. So I'm helping him prepare the boat, provisioning for the boat. I had gone on a sailboat a couple times in Santa Barbara that summer, just racing in the harbor just to kind of get an idea of what it's like to be on a sailboat because I'd never been on a sailboat before. And so we're prepping the boat. And then one day I was like, I'm feeling not like myself, but I've always wanted to go to a barber shop and just say, cut it off. I'm ready to go. So that's what I did. I went to a local barber shop and I was like, chop it off. I'm going to Mexico. I'm going to be on a boat. Like, I'm not going to see anybody. I just want to do this freedom. Chopped off the hair. It was the worst effing haircut of my life. They literally used a buzzer, the back of my head, shaving the back of my head. And I wanted to cry. I was like, who the F am I? My hair was above my ears. It was not good. So who am I that I'm thinking, who cares? I'm going to Mexico with the love of my life and no one's going to save me. I don't know what I thought I was going to be like castaway on the middle of a boat forever. I don't know. So days later, we're provisioning for the boat. We're running way behind. Chris is not able to get all the projects done. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So it's not like I could really help him that much, but I could go to Seattle and get charts at this one chart place that I can't remember. And if you get charts in Seattle, that's the place you're thinking of. Yes, that's the place. So I'm driving to Seattle, rain pouring down, typical Washington cold weather. Nirvana's cranking on the radio and I'm hitting Seattle. And I was like, okay, I finally find this place. It was in the industrial part of the city, which I feel like every part of the city is very industrial, but this was a very industrial part. I parked the car and then my phone rings and it's Chris. And he says, so I was talking to my brother-in-law and we're looking at the weather and he said, we missed the weather window and we're not going to be able to sail out until April. And I thought, what are you talking about? I just cut my hair. Like, we're going. What do you mean we're not going to Mexico right now? Like, that's what we plan. I just moved from California. I quit my job. And did I mention I cut my hair and I have a shitty haircut? I didn't say all this. I was still just ingesting it. This is what I was thinking though. I was like, okay. So the bright side came first was the positive thoughts of, oh, well, this is a new adventure. I'm going to live on a boat in Bellingham. And that is a whole other story that I won't get into. But this is all to preface. I am in this boat with a shitty haircut. I quit my job. I don't know who I am. I'm having a existential crisis at this point. We go to have dinner at his sister and brother-in-law's house. They live on Lummi Island, which is a cute little island you have to take a ferry to from the mainland to get to. And they have family dinner every Sunday. And I've shared this story with them, so I know that they're fine with me sharing this. But I remember sitting around the table. not going to Mexico, and just listening to them talk about fishing. And they're talking about boat parts and engines and things I couldn't care less about and people I don't even know. And I was depressed, number one. Number two, it was interesting for the first 10 to 15 minutes. Then I was starting to get bored and I was starting to get pissed. I was starting to resent commercial fishing. What the hell is this industry? Not only that, it's terminology and language that I don't understand. And honestly, I don't want to understand. I don't care about any of this and I'm not going to learn about it. And that's my personal protest. That was how I felt. I was so isolated that I just was like, fine, I'm just going to isolate myself by my own choice. Like I feel isolated because I don't have a choice right now in this dinner conversation, but I'm just going to personally reject it because this is not anything that I can relate to. And not only that, they're talking like A, they're family, and B, they're in this industry. And so they're just talking like they normally have. That was the other thing. Chris's life did not change whatsoever in this moment. Okay. He was living in Washington. He was planning to go to Mexico, but he didn't. He still had his job. He still had his friends, his family, his community. It was all there. I did not. And yes, I realized that was my risk for love, and that was part of it. But I did not sign up for Washington in wintertime on a sailboat for 9 months. I did not sign up for that. But yeah, you make plans, life happens. I get it. And honestly, fast forward, that was the most transformative time of my life because not only did it give me the guts to talk about the lifestyle to other people, maybe who might understand and create something called 9 Things to Know When Dating a Commercial Fisherman that ultimately led to our incredible worldwide community of partners of commercial fishermen. I also learned about what my needs are. What do I want as a woman, as my career? Do I want kids? Is this something I want to go forward with? Do I want to be with this person? Do I want to move back east? Also, it taught me how to dress for weather. I know how to layer and I know the value of wool and cashmere like a mofo. So thank you, Washington, for that. Thrift store cashmere is my favorite. Just passing that on. If you go to a thrift store, go to the cashmere, men's section, women's section, find that cashmere, layer up. Anyway, it taught me so much. So yes, I'm not saying, everything. I'm not trying to put all the negative out there. I'm just telling you, out of the darkness comes the light. This was a very dark, dark period of my life. And so every Sunday we'd have the family dinners, and lo and behold, we're talking about fishing. And I'm like, this sucks. And now I'm resenting it. And what the F it is. And also then I'm thinking, am I being unsupportive because I don't want to talk about this all the time? Does this mean that this lifestyle isn't for me if I find this boring? Are there other people out there who find this boring at times? Also, are there women who understand, or does every woman who's with a fisherman thinks this is wonderful and great? And if you do, and I know there are women that are with fishermen and think the stories are awesome, that's great. I love that. I love that. I did not love that. And so that was really where the 9 things, like this number 3 was the one that really, really was the whole reason I wrote it, because I felt misunderstood. I felt alone. I didn't know if anybody else really had that kind of, I don't want to say insecurity. I guess it is insecurity about the industry. But, over time, it shifted. I was able to understand more of what it takes to be a fisherman. I brought it back to the seafood. It really did help. It was more of, okay, this is a language that they speak. This is their language that they have been speaking together forever. And also, this is about family. It's about history. It's about identity for them. And it felt like a purpose. I even asked them, I said, why are you doing this job? Like, what the hell makes you want to do this when all you guys are doing is complaining about it? Like, what the F? And he said, well, it's an opportunity to make a lot of money in a short period of time. And if you haven't gone to college, this is a great avenue for it. I was like, oh, my brother-in-law said that. I was like, oh, well, that was succinct. And that was exactly what I was looking for. Thank you for explaining, because I just didn't understand. But it wasn't until I wrote 9 Things to Know and had people from all over the world comment that they understood that I truly felt like I belonged. And there was a space for me, but women like me all over that were bored at the dinner table and wanted to talk about something else. Like, It's okay to be bored. Also, you don't have to have shared interests with your love all the time. It's so healthy to have different interests, time apart. These are all things that are very helpful in our relationship. We've been together for 10 years. I remember Chris saying, the beginning of our relationship, he was like, man, it would not, I wish you would, but it would be so nice if we shared mountain biking together. And it's an activity I really loved, and that would be really cool. And I thought, oh man, am I not the woman that he needs me to be? And I thought, I don't want to go mountain biking. Let's go to a spa. Like, how about we go chill for a second? Let's find other ways. But it's been great because he can go mountain biking, he can go on a ride, and I can have my alone time. I can do what I want. And it's so good. So if you're ever doubting that you're not connecting with your partner enough, there's common ground that you can find. You don't have to latch on to something that they love. If you don't love it, just find something else that you both would love. And that dark space is a reminder. And I feel like it is kind of I don't want to say it's dark right now. It's a little dim for me right now because I'm in that growth space right now. Growth often starts in the uncomfortable moments. And support looks like listening, even when you don't understand yet, to yourself. Like not only listening to the other people, but listening, number one, listening to yourself. I've had a lot of moments recently where I'm thinking, man, I was feeling really confident about this new rebrand. I'm really excited about it. And I'm still very excited about it. However, I'm also going, oh, I don't have everything mapped out yet. I don't have this. I don't know if I feel clear about this. And it's like, well, that's okay, Megan. Like, it's not about having everything figured out. Like, that's actually why I love connecting with you, because I don't have everything figured out. Like, I love talking to people who are also just going along the journey and trusting it, because that is all that it's about. That is really all we can do, really, unless we want to live in fear and scarcity, which I am no longer doing. And you do not deserve that either. I'm sick of it. I'm so sick of the fear. I'm so sick of the scarcity. How can I do that for myself? And for others, it's like, let's just share what's on our hearts. Let's just talk about these moments that feel really dark and know that it's not the end. It's that rebirth. I really feel like I've been jumping out of my skin lately because I'm like, I feel antsy, but I'm also not really wanting to do anything. My energy's low. And I'm just realizing, oh, this is part of that evolution, the growing pains, the process of evolving as a woman, as a human. It's just the uncomfortableness is part of forcing us to grow, because we're not made to just sit and repeat the same old patterns. That's just going to bring us into a hole of despair and depression and doubt. We're made to evolve, especially if you're listening to this podcast. I mean, what brings us together is the fact that we know that there's a bigger calling for us, whatever that may be. It's internal. Maybe things don't hit like they used to. Maybe conversations don't really resonate like they used to, or music that you used to love to listen to, or people you like to hang out with, or substances you used to like to indulge in just don't do it anymore. And I totally get that. And that's what this is all about right now. This is like not only are we going through the 9 things, but this is also feels like a live journal documenting what I'm feeling, to see if this is something that you connect with. Because I know so many of you do, and I really appreciate it, because I know that I'm not alone, because you're out there. It's that moment of feeling like you're left out and you don't belong, to feeling deeply connected. And I truly, truly appreciate that about our conversation. And if you're ever overwhelmed, and if you're feeling unsteady, which like I mentioned, been there recently a lot. And what I go back to are these tools that I have that I didn't have when I first started dating Chris. I didn't have this in the dark night of the soul moments that I had back in Washington. But now I use them to help get me centered again. And that's why I created the Calm Compass. It's a free guide with quick breath techniques and a self check-in to help you feel grounded when life gets unpredictable and maybe a little confusing, maybe a little gray, maybe a fuzzy. You can download it in the show notes. Consider it a little navigation tool for your nervous system. Just to, stop wigging, more living. Less wigging, more living. So this whole series, The POCF Origin Series, the Partners of Commercial Fishermen Origin Series, honors where we've been as partners of commercial fishermen and gently guides into what's next. And on January 7th, this podcast becomes the Megan Waldrep Podcast. Last week, I mentioned a little bit about what the podcast is going to be about, but actually the topic has completely changed since then. So stay tuned. I am working on some amazing things behind the scenes that I'm really, really excited to share with you, and really a part of myself that feel like I've kept hidden for the entire time with POCF because I didn't feel like I wanted to offend anyone or trigger anyone, but really it's coming from my heart, and it's a connection that I have with people that we talk about all the time, and I don't feel like it's conversations that we even talk about with some of our family and friends. Again, with that theme of coming together and learning from each other and growing from that. So I know this is very vague right now, but stay tuned. On January 7th, I'm going to announce exactly what we're going to be moving forward with, and I really am excited for you to explore it with us. And so thank you always for being here. With so much love and gratitude, I'll see you next week for part 4.